Hello and welcome to this devotion. Today, let's see, is Wednesday, October the 12th. And I'm George Fuller, the pastor at Wendell Christian Church. And our goal each Wednesday morning is to have a devotion that encourages us to notice and focus on and live in the love of Christ in some way, to help each other to see the truth about God and God's love in Christ, and be able to feel the fruits of that reality when so many things are trying to distract us. We've been walking through Psalm 23, one phrase at a time, and today we get to the last phrase, which I think makes the most sense if you go back and slowly walk through all the other phrases. And I'll try to do a little bit of that in our brief time here. I'm going to read Psalm 23. I'm reading it out of the New Jerusalem translation because it preserves the name of God as Yahweh, the one from whom everything came, the one in whom everything is held and sustained, and the one to whom everything moves. We move in and through, is the one we have our life and our being in. And that one reality, not a deity off somewhere that intervenes once in a while, but a divine reality, a God who's part of us, who has and will and does infuse everything in life. When we notice, Psalm 23 is a psalm of noticing, of being aware of the life of God in a lifetime. So listen again, fresh and anew, to Psalm 23. Yahweh is my shepherd. I lack nothing. In meadows of green grass, he lets me lie. To the waters of repose, he leads me. There, he revives my soul. He guides me by paths of virtue for the sake of his name. Though I pass through a gloomy valley, I fear no harm. Beside me, your rod and your staff are there to hearten me. You prepare a table before me under the eyes of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup brims over. Ah, how goodness and kindness pursue me every day of my life. My home, the house of Yahweh, as long as I live. We're wrapping up Psalm 23, and it is with the phrase, my home, the house of Yahweh, as long as I live. Other translations say, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The real challenge that we have is not whether we are in the house of Yahweh, it's whether we are aware of and live as if we are in the house of Yahweh. When my boys were young, they would get rambunctious, get real noisy inside the house, and Tammy and I would say, use your inside voice. Notice where you are, what's appropriate. There are times when running full tilt is appropriate, but probably not in the dining room where the china is sitting. We often end up living as if we're not where we are. We often end up living as if we are not where we are. The psalmist here tells us something that can change everything for us. Change how we are in the midst of every conversation, change how we act in the midst of every challenge, change how we reflect on all the goodness in our lives and all the struggles. Because the psalmist is telling us, and it must be the words of someone who's got some age on them, it must be someone who's dared to pray deeply in the worst days of his life and find the presence of God there. But this one, King David, perhaps, but certainly someone he commissioned, says something that is affirmed and that we are affirming today, and that is that we dwell in the house of Yahweh all the time, every moment. What does it feel like? What's the experience of being in the house of God? Well, if he's not a God like is described in Psalm 23, if he's not a God that reveals himself in the way he presented himself in Jesus Christ, then being in the house of Yahweh could be fearful. It could be intimidating. But when we see the truth of what it means to be in the house of Yahweh, we see that every longing we have for love has led us to arrive in the house of Yahweh where love is pure. Every temptation we have to think that we're trapped and that there's no movement towards love and goodness would actually call us to, invite us to stop and realize that while people don't act in harmony with the presence and the love and the Spirit of God, the love and the presence and the Spirit of God is present, and we can, and they can, and we will over time notice and accept and be transformed by the knowledge of the reality of being in the house of Yahweh all the time. I wrote a little reflection in my own time this morning. The house of Yahweh is a place I go to and a place I cannot leave. Every day I am in, and I choose to be in the house of Yahweh, my shepherd, where I have all I need for everything that is mine to go through, where my cup overflows, where I can go and be restored, where I feast under the gaze of my enemies, where I am able to walk through the valleys and graze in the pastures of lush grass. Every day of my life is the day of Yahweh's presence. Every moment of my life is in the house of love of Yahweh. May it sink in. May we demand that the world get off our backs and out of our heads and admit and enjoy the reality. As the New Jerusalem translation says it, goodness and kindness pursue me every day of my life. My home, the house of Yahweh, as long as I live. May it be so in us and among us.